Hi everyone, welcome to the intro to the Unit 1 and Unit 2 exams. As you know, we're concentrating on the WJEC Unit 2 part at the moment, so that's the writing exam. So the idea of this is, by the end of this, when you're about to go into the exam, you should be able to walk into the exam as confident as this, and then walk out with the stride of a man or a woman who knows they've done well. So Unit 1 and 2 exams, 60%. 30% for the reading, 30% for the writing. And if any, so the exam is on Tuesday, June the 2nd at 9:30 AM. So we haven't got too long. This is half term, so half term is the week directly before. I will be in during half term. I'll also be available on that Monday, and I will also make sure that I'm available early on Tuesday morning. Marking your controlled assessments. I tend to write down and write text messages to myself if there's something I really want to remember. So when I was marking your controlled assessments, a lot of them were really fantastic, especially the content. However, the spelling, punctuation and grammar, which wasn't included on the WJEC mark scheme out of your 40, we didn't look at spelling, punctuation and grammar, wasn't particularly great. So even silly stuff like capital letters and full stops, people were not doing correctly. And if you want to get a high grade or even a C grade at the GCSE, these need to greatly improve. So you should know by now which paper you're doing, foundation or higher. I have emailed these all out. If anyone's unsure, they can come and see me. So to get a C in the foundation, you need to get 27 out of 40 in your writing unit. To get a C on the higher paper, you need to get 18, and obviously 22 to get a B, 26 to get an A, and 30 or over out of 40 to get an A star. So definitely something to shoot for, but there is definitely a lot of revision. There's lots of revision avenues that you can explore to help you. Good old-fashioned books. You can go to WH Smith's, or you can get these really cheap off eBay, Amazon. These are for our exam board, and they are for Unit 1 and part of Unit 2 as well. So the important thing about these books is that it's the WJEC, so it's our exam board. So there's no point in getting AQA exam books because they are different to our exam. So like you say, you can get these in WH Smith's. There is also another WJEC book available. If you look online, you'll be able to find that. Okay, another thing I want us to look at is apps on the mobile phone. So this one, if you type in the revision app, this should come up, this little skull. This is a free app, and it's actually, if any of you are doing GCSE maths as well, this will definitely help you. So this is a free app, like I said, and it's really good. It gives you some little tests, little revision exercises, info on all the topics. Another one is called Revise English Language. This one's £1.49, but £1.50, so you don't have to pay anything else after that. And this is very good because it gives you lots of revision, lots of glossaries, lots of definitions, lots of activities where you can look at. So if you just look quickly here, it's already talking about hyperbole, imperative, similes, imagery, all stuff that we've talked about, personification down here. So instead of spending £1.50 on a drink or a Subway, probably be quite good just to give you this. So instead, next time when you're waiting for the bus or wandering somewhere or waiting for a mate, instead of looking on Facebook, have a quick look at this for 5 minutes. Another way you can do it is looking at my YouTube. So there's lots of different videos. So these aren't by me, these are by other teachers. They're from companies, and I've done one for the writing exam, which is Unit 2, and one for the reading exam, which is Unit 1. So we'll take a closer look at these. I've basically put a number of videos on. So in the writing at the moment, there's like 47 revision videos. In the reading exam, 16 revision videos. So a lot of these would be good. So for example, how to write a perfect A-star review. I've already showed you little clips of how to write the perfect A-star letter, how to write the perfect A-star speech and report. I will probably whittle these down so there's not so many videos on there and just give you the best ones. I'm also going to do a playlist of my lessons. So if you've been to my lessons so far on the overall unit, then we looked at letters, then we looked at speeches, we're going to look at reports, articles and reviews. So I will do a video for each lesson so you can revise them at a later date. Unit 2, the one we're focusing on, and just to let you know, this little picture here in the top round corner, if I put this picture up here, it basically means I think it'd be a good idea if you had notes, so if you can easily revise this or take notes in the lesson. So in your 1 hour, you've got to write 2 tasks, and they could be letters, articles, leaflets, reviews, speeches. So you've got to write 2 of them in an hour. 20 marks each, it's out of 40, half an hour each. Okay, so this is just the front of the exam paper. Obviously, unless you're, I've told you differently, you'll be doing it on paper with a pen. So you can use black or blue, and like it says, 30 minutes each, as they're both worth the same marks. So this is just a clear example. So possible styles you have to work in: formal letter, informal letter, report, article, review, leaflet or speech. So you'll be getting 2 of them. You won't get a formal letter and an informal letter in the same exam. And here are just a selection of other questions. So I won't read these through. If you want to, you can just pause, and there's just a few other examples. So it always says in bold what they want you to do: article, report, guide, article. So one thing I have said to many students is that when you get your writing question, you've got to think of the POW. So that's purpose, audience, language, layout. So the POW of these 2 tasks: write a review of your school or college based on your experiences. So your purpose would be to write a review. Your audience would be your schoolmates, your college mates. The language would be a language that would befit your classmates, so a little bit formal without going into too much slang. And then your layout would be a layout of a review, which we'll be talking about in our review lesson. Second one: imagine you have relatives, blah blah blah. Write a letter which would persuade them to agree to your visit. So purpose is to persuade. The audience is your relatives. The language would be informal, and you're going to use all of your De Forest techniques. And your layout would be a typical letter layout. Okay, so have a look at the mark scheme for most of the questions. The mark scheme tends to say the same. So you get marked 13 out of the 20 marks for how you write. So how you link your paragraphs, if you answer the question, how sophisticated your argument is, how developed it is, your ambitious vocabulary, your range of stylistic devices. You get 13 marks for that. And then just to explain it a bit more, so if you know that it's formal, if it's a formal letter and you know it's formal, you get marked. Your De Forest techniques are all down here of your stylistic devices. You've got to make sure you link your paragraphs and your structure is really good. So 13 marks for how you write, and then it's 7 marks for sentence structure, punctuation and spelling. So to get the C, which is where we begin the C around this area, sentence structure, perhaps you're going to begin with a rhetorical question, perhaps you're going to begin with 2 adjectives. You should be using your commas and your semicolons, and your spelling's got to be good. So sentence structure and things like that are very, very important. So 7 marks for spelling, punctuation and grammar. Most of you during your controlled assessments were in band 2, which is okay, but to get the top mark we really need to improve and go for band 3 and band 4. So punctuation, but we need to try to improve it before the exam if possible. So here we've got full stop, question mark, exclamation point, comma, apostrophe, colon and semicolon. There you go. So what I want you to do is quickly match up the punctuation with the definitions or reasons or whatever. So remember, or look, there's 6 there and there's 8 there, so there's obviously going to be 2 on 1. Okay, so pause the video now if you want to do it on your own. Okay, so use to show that 1 or more letters are missing. So that is going to be an apostrophe. Use at the end of a word or phrase to show an emotion, exclamation mark. Use at the end of a normal sentence, so we could have a full stop. Use to join 2 sentences together, but not when using and or but. Okay, so semicolon. Use at the end of a normal sentence, that could be question mark as well. Use to indicate the start of a list, we go for colon. Use to show that something belongs to someone or something. That's going to be the second apostrophe, and use to separate items in a list. It's going to be comma. Okay, so the whole point of me showing you how you would get your punctuation is that this little arrow here tells us about what punctuation will score you. So DC, down DC, question mark, exclamation point, and you can also put into that full stops and commas. That's like at the D level. So basically, if you want to get a C, it's accepted that, or it's presumed that you know how to do this. Semicolon, brackets and colon, then you're looking at higher C and low B and B categories, and then inverted commas, dash and ellipses is where you're going to get your really top marks. Okay, and just says here that if you want to get up to the top marks as well, you've got to be using complex sentences and compound sentences, which we will have a lesson on. So one thing that is quite important and I want to talk about is that I don't want anyone to start any piece of writing work with, if it's a letter, I'm writing about. If it's an article, in this article I'm going to write about. If it's a speech, in this speech I'm going to talk about. If you start with that sort of thing, it's not the worst thing in the world. However, it does almost stamp a mark on your forehead to the examiner, and it says to them, degrade student. So there's lots of other ways you can begin things. So you could start with a rhetorical question. You could start with a fact. You could start with a made up statistic. You could start with a setting. You could start in lots of different ways. So if possible, I do not want you to start with I'm going to, and then whatever you're going to say. Okay, so structure, so obviously should be written in paragraphs, and you get marks for linking your paragraphs, what I'll talk about. You also get marked for cohesion, so this basically means about linking your paragraphs and making your writing clear. So like I said before, you should be using long sentences, and if you want to make an emphasis, use a really short sentence like we've learned in descriptive writing. You should be having complex, simple and compound sentences. Okay, so like I've said there. So simple sentences, sort of just one statement, we are not happy. A compound sentence is we are not happy and we will not put up with it. So a compound sentence is two separate sentences linked together with the connective and then a complex sentence is because of this we are not happy, but I will go into this in more detail. Okay, so these are all the things so far that the examiner expects you to know. So what we want you to do in your whatever writing thing you have is show off your skills, show off your spammo, show off your deforest. Pretend to care. I know you don't care about a train service or a train company, but for half an hour or an hour in your exam, care. It will make a difference. Just try to make out that it's the worst thing or the best thing in the world. Okay, so what I mean by it's okay to cheat is I don't mean you're going to go in there with a tattoo with the answers on. However, if you're going to be using your deforest, so facts and statistics, if you're writing a letter, say for example about a complaint to the train company, you can make up your statistics. No one's going to be checking them. So you could say 89% of staff do not like working for the company. 24% of the time the food delivered was cold. So you can make up your statistics. Okay, so here's an example if you just want to read it. Pause the video. So your introduction in your writing is really important in whichever type of writing you're doing. So it's really essential that straight away you catch the examiner's eye. Remember, they've probably read 200 of these exams. You want to make yours stand out. So you can use this by using deforest or using spammo. Or another tip is not giving straight away, not letting the examiner know straight away what you're actually talking about, what your subject is. So you might want to start off by maybe getting their attention and maybe getting to read on. So my tip is do a paragraph, do your first paragraph, maybe in the last line saying, oh, that's why I'm writing this letter. This is why my speech is about this. Okay, so an example would be this. So feel free to pause it. Okay, so here's the forest, which I've been banging on about. If you're not too sure, okay, have a look at that. I will give you a printout of that if you haven't got one already. So this is what I've been talking about all the way through. You've got to show off to that examiner. You've got 1 hour, you've got 2 texts. You've got to show off what you know. There's no point us learning through this all through the year, and then you come out the exam and you thought, I wasn't sure or I didn't want to use it. Show the examiner what you have. Okay, so here again is just a list of connectives. So what I want you to do is in your paragraphs, one thing that no one really did in the spoken language or of my somewhere when you get marks is link in your paragraphs. So for example, if you're talking about the train complaint and you said that it's something's really dreadful, and you're going to talk about something else that's really dreadful, you could say, start your paragraph with likewise, equally, in the same way, in addition to this. So all these things tell the examiner that you know how to link paragraphs and you're going to be talking about the same point. However, if you're talking about something that's a different point or completely opposite, you could say, however, on the other hand, in comparison. Yeah? And then if you want to sequence your paragraphs instead, you could put firstly, secondly, thirdly, finally, therefore. So you've got to make sure that in your paragraphs you use one of these connectives to start your paragraph. Not only is it good at a grammar point of view, but it's just more interesting to read. Okay, that's it for my introduction into Unit 2. We will look at, and I will do separate videos on each of the writing topics, but hopefully that's given you a good intro. Thanks.